Hey, what's up, people? Got a bit of a mystery device on my hands today. Well, at least it's a mystery to me. Some people out there might actually know exactly what this is or recognize it or something. I've never seen one before, so it's totally a kind of a oddball thing that I just came across. I was browsing through a thrift store not too long ago, and I saw this thing sitting on a shelf. This thing was down like that, and I don't know. It looked kind of weird. It's got what looks like to be a camera up in the front. It's got this button. It has this other little round feature there, but it doesn't seem to be a button or anything that I could tell. I don't know if it's a cover for something. It says a Navdy, so I'm pretty sure that's probably going to be like the brand. I have not looked up any information about this. I thought we'd, kind of explore it on live. So we're just kind of going to go through it, see what's all on it, and then we'll open it up and see what maybe it's for. I think I have an idea, but I'm not entirely sure. So if we take a look around on this thing, we see back on the rear that it looks like it's got what would look like would be two speakers, but they're not. If you can kind of look in there, it looks like they're just vents, and then there's a micro USB port looking thing down there, and maybe a light sensor on that corner, and other stuff on the bottom. You can see I paid about $15 for it. I don't know if that was too much, but it looked interesting enough to pick up, so I grabbed it. And then it's also got what looks like to be a little speaker down at the bottom. So this would be like maybe an actual speaker. I don't know if that's just more vent or what. But then it's got this connector. And when I first picked it up and looked at it, I kind of incorrectly thought that this was maybe like a SCART connector. And so I thought, oh, maybe it's like some sort of a set-top device for, I don't know, some weird thing. But then I realized, oh, wait, no, that's an OBD2 connector. So that's like the type of diagnostic port that you'd find in a car. So then I thought, oh, okay, so this is something made for a car. And it's got this little thing down here at the bottom that at first I thought was just part of the entire assembly. But then the more I looked at it, I realized that there was some metal shaving looking things on the side. And that made me realize there must be a magnet on it. So I grabbed it and I just sort of gently yanked on it. And I realized, oh, yeah, this is basically stuck onto this other piece magnetically. So, yeah, those are just metal shavings that got stuck to it. And then, as we can see, there's 5 points. This looks like it's PCB material, so there's just like 5 pads that make contact with those pads on the bottom of the rest of the unit. This looks like maybe there's something else that it could have been attached to. It has these sort of indentations there, like maybe it clips onto something. But when I found it, this was the only 2 things that were, attached together. So I don't know what the other thing could have been. Maybe once we figure out what all it can do, we'll look it up and see, what else was supposed to go along with it. I mean, I don't even know if it's obviously it's not complete because if it's missing some sort of base there. I don't know if there's some other device that's supposed to plug into that USB port or if that's maybe for updating something. I really don't know. So this top lens looking thing appears to be a reflector of some sort. You can see it's very, very reflective, like a mirror. And if we take a look like straight on like that, if we're looking at it, what we can see on the reflected off of the surface is that right there. So this almost looks like a sort of a screen of sorts, almost as if it were to project something. And I think that's exactly what this is. I think there must be some sort of a small projector inside that's supposed to project onto that surface. And then this is mounted on a dash so the driver can see something projected onto that surface. And I don't know if it's going to be maybe like a speedometer or something. I don't know if it's more sophisticated than that. I don't know if maybe it's navigation. I mean, the whole name of it, Navdy, maybe something to do with navigation. So that's what I think it is. It's got some sort of device that has something to do with some sort of a navigation application type thing. So the fact that it's got a camera or a camera looking thing on the front, it's kind of odd. So if we open this thing, we can see that there's just a bunch of small Torx screws on the bottom. There's a few Torx screws on the bottom of this part too. Although this is probably just some sort of a pass-through thing. I don't know if there's going to be any actual electronics on this portion of it. But it looks like we can open it up as well. So there's going to be 12 volts that goes from this connector, and then maybe some of the data lines that go to this device, and this interfaces with that, obviously. So I could probably even take this and plug it into my car and see if anything happens. Actually, maybe let's do that first before we open it up. All right, let's go on a field trip. Okay, so we're in the car, and I've got this sitting on the floor because it was the only place where there wasn't going to be a bunch of stuff behind the lens, because we can see like everything right through it. But you can see that it's aimed at that reflective screen material. I have not plugged it in yet, so we'll see what it does as soon as I plug it in. I'm going to reach down and plug in the port. There we go. So I'm about to insert it. Here we go. Let's see what it does. And it's in. And oh, something came. There's something there. Just saw a bunch of random colors. Oh, there we go. It would focus on it. Ah, there we go. Yeah, so that's a color screen. That's kind of cool. And it's just going through a bunch of things, but doesn't... Oh, there we go. Looks like it took a bit to get ready. Oh, it's got Bluetooth. Looking for... What does it say? Drivers. Oh, is it talking about me? Let's see. I'm going to try to look at the camera. There we go. I looked at the camera, and it seems to have come up. So, yeah, that's a speedometer, and it looks like it's got a little music icon next to it. And on the side, it just has a... Let me zoom in on that. I don't know why I didn't think about that earlier. So, it's... This seems like it would be a DLP type thing because we can see the colors cycling. So, oh, that's a clock on the left-hand side, I think. And then I don't know how the heck you're supposed to access this music thing. So there's probably some sort of application that's supposed to be on your phone or whatever to connect this. So what happens if we push the button? Let me see. Press and hold the button until the light blinks. I don't know what that's supposed to do. Let's see. Oh, wait a second. That looks like it's some other device. Dial forgotten. Okay, never mind. I have no idea what just happened. Well, I think we got at least some of our questions answered. So, yeah, I guess I'll have to see if there's some sort of application that's supposed to go with this thing or what. All right, then. So this thing seems a little more sophisticated than I initially thought. I thought it was just going to show some very basic animations or something. But as we saw, it's got quite a bit. It's got Bluetooth. The animations were surprisingly smooth. So that means that it's probably running a pretty decent CPU inside. And as we saw, it looks like that camera looks for like an actual person being present. It detects that, and then it shows the speedometer. So I don't know what else it can do. Pushing that button several times didn't really seem to do much other than telling me to hold it down to forget some sort of a knob or something. Not something that's on the actual thing. So I'm guessing it must be some other device. But, well, now that we know what it looks like it does, let's go ahead and open it up. We'll start with this part, and I've already removed 2 of the screws. And that's only because I had already started recording this part, and then I realized that my microphone wasn't on, so I'm redoing it. But we take off the screws, and we pop this open. So inside, take the cover off. That's pretty much all we've got. So there's a magnet, and then there's the wires coming from the cable. And let's pop this out. And yep, that's it. So the wires go straight onto those pads. There's several small, tiny devices on the board, but not much going on. It's there's one resistor over on the left, and it looks like we got 5 diodes. What is that? Oh, that's nothing. That's just the logo. So yeah, so 1 resistor and 5 diodes. Probably just stuff to do with like protecting the line. And so, yep, that's it inside of that. And looking at the bottom of this thing a little bit closer, we see right there it says designed by Navdy in San Francisco, assembled in China, model NVD01. So we can find some information about it, but we'll do that later. It says it's rated at 12 volts, 1 amp. So, and then some FCC stuff. So there we go. Let's go ahead and remove these screws and see what's all in it. Dang, these screws are actually kind of long, and it looks like they're just threading into plastic. And the last screw. If I could finish it off. There we go. Okay. So this feels kind of loose. Yeah, there we go. It's popping out. I might need the guitar pick. Feels like maybe there's some clips along the back. As we can see, there's no screws. There we go. It's coming apart. It's taking a little more persuasion than I thought it would. This side does not want to come out. Okay, so I pop one side out, the other side pops back in. Dang it. Ah, they pulled a sneaky on me. I think there's a screw hidden inside of that. Actually, it looks like it might be multiple sneakies. It feels like there's one there and another one there, but there's nothing there. Yeah. Now, I might as well remove that. I was trying to peel up on this material, which actually is sort of like a rubbery material, but it's kind of difficult to get in there, and it seems to be like really stuck on. So instead, I'm just going to try to surgically remove these by maybe cutting into it. I'm basically just trying to cut a little circle where I believe that's a screw. And that is not a screw. I'm going to laugh. These are probably not screws either then. Okay, yeah, so that is a screw. That means there's going to be another one on that side then. So hopefully, after removing these 2 screws, this bottom cover should come off. Okay, I got it pried up for the most part, but it's still not coming apart. Is that still a screw then? See, that looks like a screw, but it looks like they've put something in the middle so you can't actually put the screwdriver bit into it. Like maybe they filled it in with some sort of adhesive or something. No, maybe there's no screw there. I kind of cut open a little bit. Can't quite tell what's underneath it, but no, that does not appear to be a screw. I don't think it would have anything to do with that hinge, but I suppose might as well remove it. Dang, that was a long screw. So that's all that is. Yeah, that didn't loosen anything up either. Okay, I think I finally figured it out. So apparently it has nothing else to do with anything on the bottom of the device. It looks like we're going to have to remove maybe some screws from this side of the hinge for the hinge. And there is a small cover on this side. There's nothing on that side. So I think that if we remove this, there's going to be some screws there that we may need to remove. And yeah, there's 2 of them. So yeah, it looks like that's probably attached to something that goes to the bottom. So let me see if I can use the same screwdriver. Nope, needs a bigger one. Oh yeah, look at that. It's a super long screw. Okay, and the second one is out. So this tilts up and it comes right out. So it just has a small rod that goes to that side. So yeah, that's that. So now I think we should be able to remove the bottom. There it goes. Hey, we're in. Whoa, I'm already seeing some stuff in there. Well, some neat looking stuff. And there's some cables attached to the front. I'm going to try to take this apart so I don't break anything. get a good look at things. There appears to be there's a battery right there. There's two ribbon cables, two really thin ribbon cables right there that do not seem to want to release this. Okay, looks like maybe if I tilt this up this way a bit, this battery seems to be stopping me from being able to tilt this thing forward. There's a small cable there. Looks like it goes to some type of something in the front. I get a good look at all that stuff, but we got to get this thing to open somehow. Okay, so this cable is a type that looks like it pops upwards. Yeah, there it goes. I have a little bit more room there to, let's see, how does this battery come out? Looks like it's just double-sided tape to a piece of plastic in the front. There it goes. Kind of a crazy spot for a battery. And there's the two, well, it's one ribbon cable, but it splits into two. So that has one of these little back latches. So push that up, and there we go. So I don't know what that is. That looks like it has something to do with this circular thing in the front. Let's see, can we pop that out? Okay, so that appears to be mounted on a sort of like a small sled that fits into that slot. So if I just lift up on it, this is stopping it. This is like a separate cover from the rest of it. Okay, it appears to be double-sided taped around the edges. Well, maybe... How exactly is that stopping me, though? Oh, this reflector piece is another separate part. Okay, there we go. I pushed that side out. I should be able to push this side out as well. There we go. So that releases this sort of a center cover. And now that should allow me to remove the reflective screen material stuff. And now I can get this part out by sliding it out. There it goes. So what the heck is this? Oh, it's a capacitive. No, it says D1, D2, D. What the? Okay. Those look like LEDs. Unless they are photodiodes. So that means that this must be, I'm wondering, maybe it's a infrared detector. So maybe there's some sort of remote that was supposed to go along with this. I guess we'll find out once I actually look up some information about it. Right now we're just trying to explore it and see what's all on it. And so, yeah, if we take this off, that's just going to be the little camera module and that button. Okay, so I removed that screw that was on at the bottom. See if this allows me to pull it up or what. Okay, so this metal bracket was just sort of holding some pressure on it. And that's why it splits into two, because it goes to two separate boards. So that's the button board. Not much going on there. Why does everything have like 4 diodes on it? That has 4 diodes on it too. And that just, that's just the button. And there's some capacitors and another diode on the back. Here, we'll disconnect this ribbon from the camera so we can maybe maneuver it a little easier. So, yeah, that's just a little camera. Doesn't look like anything crazy going on there. Okay, let's take a look at this thing. And holy crap, there's already quite a few things on there. There's quite a bit of heat sinking on this one. So that's going to be the CPU and probably RAM that's got all the heat sinking on it. There's the GPS antenna. That looks like it's probably going to be, it says blocks on it. So this is probably going to be the GPS module. And then we got a bunch of other stuff over there. We got a heat sink there. So that's for the projector. You see, we even got a fan. So that looks like it's going to be the exhaust for the fan on that side. And it got more heat sinking on that side. So definitely trying to keep this thing cool. That means that there's probably a fairly high wattage LED somewhere on this device. I don't see it. It's probably maybe that right there. It's got some fairly thick wire going to it. So that is probably going to be the imager or the little image module. There's a couple of very thin wires going from the board up into this section. And on the board, it says SP3. I'm guessing that's probably going to be maybe a thermistor for temperature monitoring. Kind of weird how they have the fins on this side because the fan is pulling air in and blowing it out the back. There is no opening on that side. So basically any heat exchange on this end is just going to kind of maybe like rise and then it can kind of go over this way. So I guess that kind of works, but there are no vents on the top of this thing. So how exactly it's expected to cool off all this stuff, I'm not entirely sure. There's that one hole down there that I thought maybe was going to have a speaker. I can't quite tell just yet if there's actually a speaker there or not. There's another magnet on this side, so that's how that connector on the base is able to stick on there with quite a bit of force. See right there, it says BAT for the battery connector. So I'm wondering if this little tiny battery is obviously not going to be able to power all this stuff for a very long period of time, especially this little projector. So I'm guessing maybe this is for timekeeping. It's kind of the only thing that I think makes some sense, or so it doesn't immediately shut off when it gets disconnected. Maybe it allows it to sort of gracefully shut down or something. So yeah, just a guess. There is a Kingston device that's probably going to be the storage, kind of like an eMMC or something. It is DLP. It's got a DLP chip right there. That is tiny. Well, let's take the board off of this bottom part, and that way we can flip it around a little bit easier and take a look and see if there's stuff on the bottom. So looks like there's only a few screws. There's 1, 2. This one looks like it's just for the fan. Actually, no, that's for that cover, or it might go all the way across. I don't know. I can't tell. And there's 3 for the small projector module. There's one right there, and there's another one there. So it looks like maybe if all those screws come off, we can remove the board. But also this ribbon has a small connector that we can see on the underside. So I'll try to, I don't know if I can, this is a double-sided tape to the base. So maybe I'll just leave that intact, and if I can stick something down there to remove that connector. Oh yeah, I can see the tab. It's, maybe if I lift it down. Yeah, that appears to be working. So that's going to be easy to remove. Okay, no big deal. Everything else, this GPS antenna connector should just be able to easily pop out like that. Battery connector is a type that pulls up like that. So that's it. All right, let's remove some screws. Oh, and the fan also. That one also just lifts up. All right, let's see what we can do. Okay, with all those screws removed, let's see. Still doesn't feel very free. Maybe there's something else that I can't see hiding underneath one of these parts. All right, there's got to be something hiding underneath the projector module because it feels like something's holding it down in this area. If I lift up the board on this side, it can lift up. If I lift up the board on this side, it can lift up. But I'm trying not to force it because I don't want to break anything. So somehow, it looks like I'm going to have to try to remove this little projector. And not entirely seeing how that's going to happen. It's not exactly moving very much. I mean, that moves a bit, but well, that came out. I see some pads underneath. I still don't see any screws or anything. Oh, and the pads are labeled. So these are the same pads that go down to those little pogo pins on the bottom. Okay, it appears that there's another screw hiding underneath this heatsink, but I don't see how I'm supposed to get to that because that's underneath this portion. So, and this thermistor, it doesn't look like it's been soldered from the top, so it looks like everything was assembled as one piece. So how the heck am I supposed to access that? Unless this thermistor was inserted after the fact. Let's see if I can Gently lift it up without breaking it. There it is. Okay. So now maybe I can lift up the rest of the projector assembly because it's somewhat sliding up. Kind of see it there. The thermal pads are just sort of sliding up, except this one looked like it broke. Well, let's pull this other thermistor out because that also looks like it may have been inserted after the fact. Okay, I unplugged that small cable and I'm able to somewhat tilt this out. And there is another ribbon cable underneath this that I'm pretty sure is probably going to be for the device that produces the actual images. Can't quite get it on the camera, but it's down in there. Man, I seriously don't get how the heck they assembled this thing. Oh, this thing sort of popped out. It's a little... Okay, there we go. Wait. Oh, it's got a connector on that side. So this just needed to sort of pull away from that. So, yeah, there we go. So it's got this sort of interconnect between the bottom board and the actual projector. So that's going to be the little imager inside. And then on that piece of ribbon cable, looks like it's got some RAM. We'll take a closer look at that in a bit. But there we go. I finally have access to that screw. Okay, let's see if that frees this board to come out now. It looks like it will. Oh, yeah, that's definitely free. There we go. Man, that was tricky. And we see we got more heatsink on that side. That's okay. So there's more RAM underneath. So this thing has a total of 4 RAM chips. Dang, that's kind of crazy. And then the entire SoC, which is going to be what's underneath this square heatsink, that's pretty big too. So I'm really curious what the heck they have going on. Maybe if I heat this up, I can pull the heatsink off without damaging the SoC underneath, pulling it off the board or anything, so we can maybe mess with this a little more. I'm kind of curious to know what exactly this port is for, but like I said, I have not looked up any information about this yet. Once we kind of explore this a bit, then I'll look up and see what I can find. But there you go. It says PCV version 5 HUD motherboard, so definitely meant to be sort of a heads-up display. And so let's put this under the microscope, and then we'll just kind of take a close look at what some of this stuff is. And let's see, not much else on... What is this? That almost looks like a grounding point. Looks like maybe it broke off the board. Ah, looks like it broke off of the rear. Probably when I was trying to pry it open with one of those like guitar pick spudgers, I might have accidentally broken it off. But that's just looks like it just grounds just touches those metal plates down at the bottom. So, I mean, I can put that on if I decide to reassemble this thing. I'm really curious about this tiny little projector. But, all right, let's get the microscope out. Okay, so starting from the end where the battery connector was, that's that other 2-pin connector, and it says IR right there. So, yeah, this is definitely some sort of infrared receiver. And so that means that there was probably some controller that went along with this device. Then on the back, we can see we just got 4 resistors. Unless, actually, I was wondering why there would be resistors. Maybe this is not a transmitter. This is a receiver. This is a transmitter. I bet you these are being used these are infrared LEDs. So what they're probably doing is if it's dark, the infrared will light you up so that the camera can actually see you and detect the driver, which is, I'm guessing, what's going on. So that makes more sense because I thought these don't exactly look like infrared receivers. If it was a receiver, I don't see why they'd need to use 4. It's usually, 1 would suffice. But yeah, that makes more sense now. So, okay, I think we solved that mystery. And so if we keep going on the board, we see we got this chip right there. It says SS6615030. So that's probably going to be like a Bluetooth chip, judging by the fact that there's this tiny antenna right near it, and we saw that it did have a Bluetooth connection. So I'm guessing that's probably what that's going to be for. Bunch of other small stuff, inductors, this free scale part. It says MMPF0100. Judging by all of these inductors around it, that's probably going to be some sort of like power supervisor IC or something. And also the fact that the battery is on this end, it probably has a charging capabilities or something. Don't know if we'd be able to find information about that, but I'm guessing that's probably what it's going to be. We've got this. What's that brand? That is, I think that's Alpha Omega branded chip. No clue what that is. Probably more power stuff, to be honest, just because of its location. So we've got the little fan connector with the 3 pins. And so what was on the underside of this portion? Just little ferrite B transistors, looks like, or MOSFETs. A bunch of passive stuff. So yeah, this is all looks like just power section. It's a resettable fuse, looks like. Doesn't look like it's a fusible length. It says F30, so, but I'm judging by the way it looks, it might be a resettable fuse. There's the pogo pins. Those are the ones that make contact with the device that attaches on the bottom. And we can see that we have one that's ground, one that's 12 volts, heads-up display receiver, heads-up display transmitter, and foot switch. That's kind of interesting. I mean, it doesn't have any other connectors on the bottom, so that's, unless there was some other device that was supposed to be interconnected between the OBD2 connector and this, but I don't know. There's one of the thermistors, and we go up this way. We see that there's the, it looks like the 6-pin connector. That's most likely the LED. And we see we got some traces that snake from that connector underneath this foam pad over in this direction. And there's that tiny connector that goes to what I'm going to guess is probably the little image device. And looks like I partially pulled this out a bit. So let's go ahead and remove it just so we can take a look at that ribbon. So that just lifts up. Looks like I can probably gently pull this out. I'm going to try not to break it. And looks like it's a dual row connector. Yeah. So it's got 2 rows of contacts. And that's the connector that goes to the projector. And if we look on the other side, we can see. Oh, actually, that's not RAM. It says U-Flash. So yeah, that's only got 8 pins. So okay, I thought it was like a BGA, but it's not. So, that's pretty cool. It probably has the information about the resolution and stuff, about the display that the SoC can read. So, yeah, that's pretty neat. Any other information on the bottom? All this stuff looks like it's going to be custom. It says it's all Navdy branded. What does it say? DMD L-shape FPC for Navdy v1.0. Let's see, it's got a date of July 31st, 2015. So it's a few years old. And I guess the device is actually manufactured by this iView Limited. So that connector was just mounted up against that thermal pad. So that looks like, well, obviously it's heat sinking for the actual DMD. This is like a little fin stack. So going right along, there's that Kingston device. Oh yeah, it is eMMC. So right to, it's upside down. So where was it? I lost it. There we go. So yes, eMMC 16G. So 16 gigs. Dang, I'm guessing that's what that is. Like I can't imagine that it'd be 16 gigabits. It's probably gigabytes. So that's kind of big. Maybe there's applications you can install on this thing. I mean, like I said, this SoC is not exactly tiny. So a lot more grunt in this thing than I was expecting. There's another tiny device. I can't quite tell what those numbers on that are, but there's more inductors and capacitors. So this is probably going to be some sort of a power device, maybe for the actual DMD. And so it looks like, yeah, it's using a little digital micromirror for the DLP projector. And there's this DLP chip. It says DDP2607. So I'm guessing this is going to be interface for the SoC to the actual little projector unit. We got another WinBond chip, and that looks like it's going to be RAM, probably for the DLP portion of the projector. So whatever size that is. And yeah, that's looks like it's all connected to that. So yeah, that's pretty much what that is. Got some oscillator or crystal right there. There's the little light sensor. So that on the casing is there's a light pipe that goes from the, well, technically would be the front of the unit. I kept calling it the back. So I guess maybe that's used for adjusting the light output from the LED for the projectors, so that if it's like nighttime, it's not blinding you, and when it's daytime, it can be brighter so that it can actually be seen. And I'll try to remove this heatsink so we can see what sort of a SoC is on this thing. The RAM, I mean, whatever, I guess. We could look at it maybe and try to get an idea of how much RAM is actually on the thing. Although, maybe the heatsink on the bottom might be a little easier to remove, because it's just a really thin copper plate. So if I remove that, I'm pretty sure that all 4 chips are probably going to be the exact same thing. And moving right along this side of the board, we got a little bit more. These are probably, it says U36. This one says Q35. So that's probably going to be some sort of a MOSFET or something. U36, that might be like a voltage regulator. Looks like we got some unpopulated stuff. And there's the, it's obviously going to be the GPS module. Looks like it's U-Blocks branded. It's a Neo M8L-0-00. So, yeah, we can see that the antenna connector goes through that resistor there directly into one of the pins of the module. So, this might be using like maybe SPI or something to communicate with the rest of the SoC. So, that's pretty much everything on this side. On the opposite side, more towards the, what would be the front of the unit, look, got a ton of resistors on that end. That's where the RAM and stuff is. So I'm guessing it might be something for that. You can see a bunch of decoupling stuff underneath where the SoC is. So a bunch of vias, some unpopulated stuff right there. That's the connector that goes to the camera into the small button board. So nothing. There's a USB connector, so it's just a little micro USB connector. Looks like it's got a little diode array for protection. That's that little box right there. That's where that grounding point that looks like I broke off. But it looks like it just broke the solder off. So if I want to put it back on, I should just be able to resolder it on easily. Not much else. Maybe go a few other small ICs. And then up in this portion, it's got another little IC. It says NVC or NCV59. No clue what that is. Actually, that's right on the underside of where the LED connector is. So maybe it's got something to do with that. Not entirely sure, but yep, that's going to do it. And there's the other thermistor. So yeah, quite a bit of stuff packed into this kind of a thin device. And that's the bottom side of the projector module. Not a whole lot going on there. It's all covered up with tape. There is a small screw, if I could get this to focus, on the back of where I'm pretty sure it's the LED. If we remove that, maybe we can see what the LED actually looks like. Looks like, oh, that's that board right there. That's going to be housing that LED. Might be one. Maybe it's like an array of a few of them. Not sure. Let's remove that screw, and hopefully we don't get a bunch of little bits of debris and stuff inside. So, tiny screw. Okay, I can't quite pull this off, and even though it looks like that screw should have been the only thing holding it in, there's nothing on this side. There's a small screw underneath this tape. Looks like it's hiding this cover. I don't know if it goes in any further. Oh yeah, that's a lot bigger than it looks. So it looks like this tape is covering up a bunch of, well, not a bunch of stuff, but maybe there's a cover there that can be removed. Oh yeah, there it is. See how far that goes. So this tape goes along the side and down to the bottom. And that's it for that piece. Looks like it came off intact. Well, let's see. Let's remove that screw. And I'm guessing what we're going to see is a bunch of the optical components. Unless they are covered up further. Okay, there we go. Flipping this over. Yep, look at that. It's like we've got some collimators, lenses, some prism stuff. So the image is going to be there. Oh, looks like we can remove that. There's one screw there, another screw there. I wonder that screw's doing. I wonder if that's like a focus adjustment, but I don't really see anything that can move in here, so maybe not. So this is actually, yeah, because this is the output lens right there. So yeah, it looks like we've got two or one, two. Yeah, so there's more than one LED on this thing. So maybe there's like a green, a red, and blue. Maybe there's like there's two of them combined or something. Maybe one of them is just like green, the other one's red and blue, I would think. So what this thing would be doing is it would quickly be cycling between the red, green, and the blue, and every time it's on one of the colors, the DMD is going to be producing like a certain image, and then when it switches to another color, it switches the image a little bit to whatever needs to be that particular color, and so on and so forth. So that's how that would be working. So it looks like, yeah, the light from this LED portion would kind of go across. There's that collimator, and it goes to that mirror, bounces off, goes this way, bounces off of the DMD, comes back, bounces off of that, and goes out and gets projected. So the same for this LED, goes this way, bounces off of that, goes through there, goes through that lens, the mirror, the lens, and then it goes into the DMD, and then that way. So that's pretty much how that would work. So let's see if we can take a look at the actual DMD. I'm going to try to cover this up so I don't get a bunch of dust in there. And yep, this screw definitely adjusts the focus. You can see how these are sort of moving back and forth as I turn the screw. So this would help adjust where the image lands on that sort of a projector background or the screen. See if I can get to this screw with this other tiny screwdriver. And come on, you can do it. Turn. No, it's not turning. I can't quite fit a screwdriver in there, and this screw's in the way. I don't know if it would come off if I just turn it out all the way, or if it's going to stop. No, that's going to stop, and it's probably going to break something. If we remove this cover, and that goes all the way underneath. Actually, it looks like maybe I don't need to remove the screw all the way. These are slotted, so maybe I can slide this out. I don't know if this is actually going to allow me to release the DMD, but let's see. It's not quite working. Okay, I was able to get that screw to turn just enough to release this plate. And then this small piece of material can come out, and there it is. Wow, that is tiny. It's like maybe about a 1/4 inch in diameter this way. So it looks like it's maybe like a 4:3 formatted little device. There we go. There's all those little tiny mirrors. I don't know if I can zoom in on that anymore or magnify it more. Let me actually have another lens I could use. So it looks like right now they're all just sort of random, or that's just how it looks. I would expect them to be a little bit more uniform, but I guess not. And that's a side view of the thing. So it's a pretty thick ceramic substrate. There's the connector in the back. And it looks like it's just sort of like epoxy blobbed to the, well, it looks like it's got what looks like to be a glass sort of cover. So the actual micromirror device is that really shiny thing that's sandwiched in between the glass and the ceramic substrate. So yeah, let's see if I can magnify this a little bit more. Well, that's about as close as I can get with what I have. It looks like we can sort of see a matrix of tiny little mirrors. I can't magnify it anymore. This is the best I can do, but that's that's pretty cool being able to see that this at least somewhat up close. So that was pretty neat. I wish I had more magnification so we could look at the mirrors up closer, but I mean that's gonna have to do for now. One thing I didn't keep track of when I removed this was which orientation it went in. Although my could just review the footage and make sure that I got it right. But it looks like it would only fit into one specific position. So it looks like this is the correct orientation. If I take it and I flip it over, it doesn't go in. So it looks like they keyed this in just the way that you can only put it in one way because the connector itself isn't keyed in any sort of way. So you could technically flip this over and plug it into that ribbon and it would still connect. But what I would like to do now that we see everything that's inside of this thing is I would like to at least connect just the micro mirror device to this ribbon, plug it into the board, and it doesn't look like it has any way of knowing whether or not the projector is working correctly. So I think that if we just plug that into there and plug the LEDs, because I do bet that there's at least going to be maybe like some current sensing or something on those LEDs to make sure that they, are actually working correctly. But if we can get all that stuff hooked up, but we still have access to be able to see the front of the micro mirror, we could probably see an image on it. So I'm going to connect everything, and I'll try to power up the device, here on the bench, and we'll see what we get. Oh, one other quick little thing while I still have the microscope out. If we look into where the micro mirror would normally be sitting, you can see the output. Ah, there we go. I turned off the light. You can see it better. So that's the output. Okay, I got this put together to the point where I think we should be able to get something on the display, assuming it doesn't error out in some sort of way. I got the camera and the front button hooked up. I hooked the infrared, what I'm assuming is the light, hooked up just in case. The fan's hooked up, battery's hooked up, so hopefully it won't give us any problems. We can just turn it on and see what we can see on that little micro mirror device. But one thing I kind of forgot is to open this up and see what's all in it. It looks like it's pretty easy to open up. So before I hook this up to power, actually, I might even benefit from that. Maybe I can just hook up some clips directly so that they can go to that. Oh, I just realized this is not going to stay. So I might need to put a screw down on that to hold that down so that I can attach this bottom thing on. Although I guess I could just solder some wire. I don't know. I have options. Okay, just ignore me. I'm kind of blabbering now. Let's just open this up and see what's inside. And that popped open pretty easily. All right, there it is. So, small board. Oh, there's actually more going on in here than I thought. Okay, so I'm guessing there's probably going to be some decoding stuff for like the CAN bus or whatever. And that board, it's not going to pop out easily. It's got the pins. Yeah, that stuff is like molded into the plastic, so it's probably not going to come off easily. So we'll take a close look at that and see what sort of chips are on it. It's kind of hard to tell just looking at it, but yeah, basically it's just going to be a lot of interface stuff. It looks like maybe some voltage regulation. Well, since that's the case, maybe then instead of trying to power it directly from 12 volts on there, I'll just hook this up and I'll just apply 12 volts to this connector. All right, I've been fiddling with trying to get this thing set up, and this is probably as best as it's going to get. So I got the microphone sitting right over the board. I got the board almost sitting vertically this way. So I got the camera in the front, that way it can detect me. And if we actually look at what the microscope is looking at, we can see that I've got it focused right onto that micro mirror device. It's not exactly completely in the shot. I don't think it's using the entirety of the display area anyway, because as we saw, the thing is actually kind of long. So I think this is probably as good as it's going to get. I'm trying to keep it in focus. So now I'm going to apply power to it, and we'll see what shows up on the on the little micro mirror device. I got the camera pointed in my direction. That way, if it gets to that point where it says, looking for drivers or whatever, then it'll actually be able to see me and go into the next step. So here we go. I'm applying power. And I see lights are coming on. Ah, there it is. So we saw a little the Navdy flash there in the... Yeah, there it is. It's working. So that is the actual, just the micro mirror itself. I can see light coming out of the rest of the projector assembly. The LEDs are on. So right now it's booting. So yeah, this basically it's just going to look like a black and white image because that's all it is. It's just the mirrors reflecting what light they have here in the garage. But let's see, I'm going to try to turn this flashlight on. So yeah, you can see I'm pointing the flashlight at that micro mirror device, and it can make it brighter. If I can get it at just the right angle, there we go. So it wants me to push a button. What does it say? Driver, looking for driver. Okay, I'm pointing the camera at me. Is it going to detect me? This camera's not working. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That works. I've never actually seen a tiny micro mirror device with bare eyes like this. I mean, and honestly, it's so tiny. It's hard to see anything. But if you're curious as to what that sort of looks like, I'll move this out of the way. I mean, that's that little tiny thing right there. So there's the projector. That's the light coming off the LEDs. Let's see how hot these are getting. I'm going to try to not burn them up. Oh, they're not too hot yet. So yeah, that's basically what the light looks like going to the area where the micro mirror would normally be. So the projector side is that side right there. So see if I put something there, can we see it? Yeah, there you go. You can see there's light coming out of the projector now. So that's so tiny. And there's a closer look at that board on the OBD2 connector. So yeah, as we can see, what looks like some switching regulators. There's that main chip that says OBD SOL. So yeah, that's just going to be OBD interfacing stuff. We got an L339. So that's going to be like a quad comparator. Probably just doing some interfacing stuff as well for the OBD2 connector. So yeah, you can see right there it says OBD2. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to bother taking this out. This looks like there's more other devices there. It looks like there's a like a polyfuse. So it's like going to be like a resettable fuse, some diodes, and just a bunch of other small semiconductors. Oh, dang, there's actually more ICs in there. So that's probably going to be OBD, or not OBD, but like CAN bus interfacing stuff, most likely. So that's pretty much it. Okay, so now that we've taken a look inside and seeing how some of this stuff works, I decided to finally look up some information about it. And yeah, this was actually meant to be a heads-up display that would actually show you a map on this reflector. And, that's how you got your directions and everything. It could show you notifications and, like if you got a text or whatever. So pretty capable little device, but unfortunately, it looks like it's been discontinued and no longer supported. And the apps for this thing have been wiped. They are no longer available for download. So it's kind of like an abandoned device. But it's kind of sad seeing how it's actually got a pretty decent amount of hardware inside. We'll still take off, see if I can take off that heatsink, and we can see what sort of SoC is on the thing and how much RAM it actually has. Because I'm just kind of curious to know. Not that I wouldn't even be able to start developing anything for something like this. But yeah, pretty interesting stuff all around, and kind of a neat find for $15 in my opinion, now that I had a chance to look inside. So yeah, I'll see if I can take off these heat sinks, and we'll see what else is left hiding underneath those. And after applying some heat and some gentle physical persuasion, I was able to get the heat sinks to remove from the both the SoC and the two top RAM devices. I didn't remove it from the bottom ones because I'm pretty sure that all four are probably going to be the exact same thing. So the SoC is a Freescale branded device, which is actually NXP now, but I did find some information about it. So that chip is an MCIMX6U5EVM10AC, and it's not recommended for new designs. But we can take a look at some of the features. So it happens to be a dual core ARM Cortex A9 that runs at 1 gigahertz. It's got support for various different memory options, has different video display options and PCIe. It's got I2C and some other peripherals, USB, UARTs. And so it's a fairly capable device. It's not like it's a really basic microcontroller or anything. So definitely quite a bit of grunt going on inside this device, as I kind of mentioned before. And the RAM chips, it appears that these are 256 megabyte RAM chips. So in total, this would have a 1 gigabyte if the information I found about these is correct. Looks like that DP or D9 PTK is the actual number to look for. And so this is definitely a 16 gigabyte flash storage device. And I did find some information about the DLP IC that's used for the projector section. So that happens to be a DLPC 2607. And as it says, it's a low power DLP display controller. And it says on right here in the features, it supports reliable operation of the 0.02-NHD and 0.24-VGA and 0.3 WVGA DMDs. I think what's in this must be this 0.24 VGA, because both of these other ones are wide arrays, and this one kind of makes sense as we saw the kind of like the shape of the mirror array. So the only problem is I can't find any information or a data sheet for any of the VGA DMDs. I did find one for this 0.2 NHD one, and that's this data sheet. It says DLP 2000, and then it says right there the 0.2 NHD DMD. So that's got a array of 640 by 360, and so that's one of them. It kind of shows a diagram of what that would kind of look like in the setup. But on the data sheet for the actual display controller, it does have another diagram, and this is pretty much what's on this device. So we got that 2607, this DLPA 1000. That's one of the tiny little chips that was closer to the actual projector. And so that kind of gives you like a basic overview. There's the actual DMD. Looks like there's supposed to be a sensor that actually detects the red, green, and blue lights. So I don't know where that would actually be. I didn't see any other, unless it's on the LED section or the where the LEDs are mounted. So I guess this is so that it can detect which color it's on, and that way it can trigger the mirrors to kind of move around appropriately to display the proper images that are going to be projected from the projector. That DLPA 1000 chip, that's that little tiny square right there behind this heatsink. Yeah, I think that's pretty much going to do it for the teardown and kind of investigation on this thing. One thing I did kind of forget to look at, though, was the LEDs and to see which one was what, but I did remove the cover again. And if I turn this on, we can actually see which LED does what. And so let me just get this positioned like that. And right now I'm about to apply power, so everything should come on. And there we go. So we can see that the LED all the way in the back, that's the green LED. And this one looks pink, but that's going to be because that's going to have the red and the blue LED shining through it. So then they go through these like dichroic filters, and that's kind of helps so that they get the right wavelengths of light, going through there, bouncing off the DMD, going back, bouncing off of that prism, and then being projected outwards. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much going to do it. If you've got any questions or something that maybe you think I should have shown a little bit more of, feel free to leave it in the comments. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to have to put this thing back together because I did not take a thumbnail or a picture for a thumbnail of it before I started taking it apart, which I should have done. But it looks like it's fairly simple to reassemble. So I'll do that, take my screenshot, and then I'll be editing this video. So thank you all for watching once again. And I will see you guys around the bench.